Welcome back to the Walking with Jaguars podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Bram is an entrepreneur, he's a father, he's a Bitcoin educator, he's the host of the Bitcoin for Millennials podcast, and he's just a badass in the space. And we connected, and I think the energies are just really aligned, and I'm excited for this conversation. Is there any other like hats or identities or labels you like to wear and put on yourself?
Well, it's all made up anyway, except the father part, I think. But well, yeah, I think it's just I'm thinking about the label curious. Like you said, I have a Bitcoin podcast and I have over 200 episodes. And I think the main thing, like the main personal trait I see with people that are into Bitcoin is just curiosity, like not like just accepting they don't know everything and also being excited about figuring out what they don't know, right? Like just that journey is interesting to them by definition, and then whatever the conclusion is what the conclusion is, right? But I think curious people are really, um, yeah, they kind of have a leg up uh, with the rest of the world when it comes to Bitcoin. So maybe add curious, curiosity.
Love it, love it. And you're 100% right. It's one of those things where you are going down a rabbit hole, and very quickly you're like pushed up against a lot of ideas and societal norms that you have to challenge in a big, big way. It's just as much an unlearning process as a learning process. If you're not intellectually curious, like you're just going to run into walls immediately.
Yeah. Well, I think just the running into the wall is already trigger number one, right? Like not even realizing what is behind the wall. It's just like you said, the fact that when you go down this Bitcoin rabbit hole, right? Like the central question is what is money, and just realizing that you never really learned what money is and what that actually means, that no one ever taught you, but it's like the most important technology people use to communicate with each other, to express value with each other. When you really sit with that and think about it, that is already just incredibly messed up. It's like, why weren't I taught what this is, right? Like, why is my reference to money basically me being 5 or 6 years old, getting some coins, going to a store, saying like, can I have a bread or lollipop? And I give the coins and I get it back. And then I'm like, well, that's money. And then the rest of your life, you never really think about it until, for me, I was like mid late 20s where I just realized I have no clue. And it's funny because I realized it when I was 30, working in a bank. I had a mortgage. And then I had a colleague tell me, did you know the money in the bank is not yours? And I was like, what are you talking about? And then we had a conversation for an hour where he explained like fractional reserve banking and stuff like that. And I just remembered walking away from that conversation being like, okay, I'm an idiot. Like, I have no, look at me, look at where I am, what I'm doing. I was already into Bitcoin. I was like, I have no clue what I'm even investigating, basically. And yeah, when you go down this path of what is money, I think just realizing that you are acting in a system where you think you're an actor, but you're actually a subject. I think that is already like fork in the road number one. Like, you have to take that red pill basically and be like, okay, well, I'm an idiot. I have no clue. I was unconsciously unaware of what I was doing. And I should follow this path if I want to figure it out. Right. Right. And if you want to ignore that, I think that is already a very big decision, if that makes sense. Right. Like, once you realize that there's other people know better than you that influence the money that you trade your time and energy for, then yeah, that's already pretty messed up, right? And that is like the very start, I think, of a part of the rest.
Yeah, it starts with like cataclysmic confusion. For step one, your entire world has to dissolve. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I was like also just in some ways like bred to be a Bitcoiner. I remember like we have memories and like you don't remember everything in your life. You just have like bits and pieces. But I have this memory of being like 9 years old asking my dad, is $1 like a $1 coin worth a dollar? And it was like, of course not. And it was like from the moment I could conceive of money and like coins and everything, it was like, this doesn't make sense. And then you just get gaslighted.
Well, that's like almost Voltaire level, right? Like, is what does the 1 mean on the bill? What does the 20 mean on the, right? He says like all money goes back to its value, the value of the paper it's printed on. But that's quite profound for a 6-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't re-explore that idea until, I was in my early 20s. So, you know.
But that isn't that funny? Like that you're just doing things, and then at one point you're like, what am I actually doing? And now also, I mean, I'm late 30s. When I think about me being 22, no clue where I was. No clue. I survived somehow, right? But just totally unaware. And I think when you get to that point where you, by some trigger, or you get to that point where you're like, what am I actually doing? What am I actually involved in? How do I actually react? Like the kind of like the who am I question, you know? I think that's when a lot of this stuff basically opens up, right? That just investigating that for yourself, I think, already kind of like pokes holes in the veil of the structure, that you just participate in. And then you realize no one really has figured it out. Everyone is winging it, right? So how can I be, yeah, kind of like more in control, or be more conscious about what I'm doing in it? Yeah, I think that's like another door of that rabbit hole, in a sense that maybe if you get there early and you just accept that you don't know everything, that's kind of when it becomes easier. But I agree. I also think I was kind of wired and lucky in that sense to get Bitcoin. Like I was always the annoying kid in class that asked all the questions, right? And then the other kids were always like, "Oh, there's Bram again with a question." I was like, "No, but I'm actually listening. I'm participating. Like I want to learn. That's why I'm actually asking the question, right?" And they were all like, "No, you just have to ingest whatever this person of authority is telling you." And I never really cared about those comments, but that's what I think about when I think back. Like, okay, what kind of helped me, or what are like the personality traits that I have that actually helped me? But I also think it's luck to a degree, that you also kind of enjoy the pain of taking that red pill, right? Like it's not a fun experience. It's not relaxed,
No,
right?
I
Like
mean
just
it's the opposite of comfort seeking, right? It's
oh
like
yeah,
putting
I
yourself
think so.
in discomfort to see kind of what you're made of. That's funny though. I was very much the same in school, and I'm curious if the people who were like Bitcoiners and kind of got the signal early and understand it to the degree that, the Bitcoin maximalist kind of people do, if they were similar. Whereas sort of like a trait shared among all of us that we were just bad students, like intelligent, but like couldn't handle it.
Well, I don't know if you believe in these Meyer-Briggs personality types. Like I have a joke here, like INTJ on the cap. I don't know if you've ever seen, like, do you know the
I know of
Myers-Briggs,
it,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so this research that like some Bitcoiners did on Twitter, where they were trying to figure out what are like the personality types of Bitcoiners, and it turned out that like 24 or 26% of Bitcoiners are like INTJ or INTP, where it's only like 2% of all people that are INTJ or INTP, right? So I'm not like super deep in it, but I think it's a fun joke. But I just Googled it. Like INTJ is a personality type, so who is introverted, intuitive, thinking, and judging, right? So the judging part is really like, well, is what you're telling me really true? Right? Is the 1 on the bill less valuable than the 20 on the bill? Like that doesn't really make sense. No one ever really explained to me why that is, right? Like, so i think I think it's kind of that, right? Like that it's some things are just so illogical that you were told, that it just doesn't let you go. Or you cannot accept it until you kind of understand why it is the way it is. And I think it's to be honest, I think it's a deeply like uh, uncomfortable personality, right? Because you're like constantly, it's like never chill, right? You're like constantly questioning and searching, and trying to discern whatever you find. Yeah.
Pressure testing everything that you come into contact with.
Yeah, because like who knows? That's kind of my base thing. Is like no one knows anything. So why would this be true, or the fact, or the science, or the, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's that, but it's I don't think it's like skepticism. I think it's more like uh yeah, like honest curiosity, like just not taking anything for at face value, or for also for granted, by the way. Yeah, I think it's just inquisitive, and also having joy in doing that, I would say, right? Like, there's a lot of people that don't enjoy thinking or talking or reflecting or whatever, right? They just go with whatever the entertainment of the day is or something. That's also fine, right? But yeah, I think this is just kind of how we are wired, perhaps. I don't know if you do you have you ever looked at your Myers-Briggs or not?
I think I did, like a long time ago, but I feel like I'd have to do it again. I couldn't tell you what it was. But I'll do it after this. Actually, I'll check. I'll do a pressure test, Yeah. Okay, so this conversation is like I want to really go beyond Bitcoin, because like Bitcoin is in this incredible technology. Um, but it just becomes like a new beginning point. At least it was for me. So just to kind of like frame the conversation for the people who aren't like super deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, what is it that Bitcoin fundamentally fixes?
Ooh, I think Bitcoin fundamentally fixes the actual measurement of value, right? So anything that you can put your productivity towards, which is your energy expended in your time, right? So when you do something for an hour, you spend your energy for it. That's like how productive you are, and whatever your output is. Um, I always use this example. So if we agree on a certain trade, I have a proposition, right? Uh, I do something for you, and my proposition is XYZ. You get this value, right? That's what I think you need. And you walk by my store and you see, like, oh, hey, this is the thing Bram offers is exactly what I need, right? And that is, of course, my task as the entrepreneur, is to understand what you need, right? So we find each other. You walk in the store. The thing I offer is $100 units, and you are like, well, 100 is a bit too much, can we do it for 80? And then I'll be like, no, we can do it for 90. And we shake hands. Like, we did that in total freedom, right? Like, I kind of understand what you're looking for. You think it's perhaps a bit too expensive. You say what it's worth to you, and I, counter, and we say okay. And so that seems like a free market economy, basically. But then I get to work, I create whatever my proposition was for you, and I deliver that, right? But then when you give me your reward, right, which is fiat money, dollars, yen, euros, etc., um a third party kind of comes into play. There's like a third party that determines what the value of that reward is. And so if the reward, the 90 money units, um, for me were good enough, right? Because I agreed, I even proposed it, the 90. I say, like, okay, these 90 money units, I think, represent, the value I'm giving to you, and you agreed. So that's how we measure. That's how our measurement is, or our agreement is basically measured, right? That's our exchange. It's an equal exchange. I give you something, you give me something in return, and what you give to me in return, I can spend on things that other people make with their productivity and, time and energy. So we make that deal. I give you what I created. You gave me the 90 dollar units. But if I don't want to spend these 90 units immediately, and I want to save them, build capital, right? So pooled money is capital that I can spend on other things that cost energy. This is one thing I learned along the way from a non-Bitcoin podcast, actually. Is someone said, if you look around you, everything that you see costs energy to create or maintain. I thought it was super interesting. So, right. So even like the wooden cabinet, like sun or energy from the sun went into the tree, and there was like rain, and the tree grew, and someone chopped the tree, right? and went to a factory and they made beams, etc., etc. So there's like energy, and everything costs energy to create or maintain. And so that is basically what you do as a human. So if I have these 90 money units and I don't want to spend them now or even tomorrow, maybe I have a plan and I want to spend them in a year because I want to move somewhere or build out my store or start a family or buy a home or whatever I want to do in the future. Conceptually, these 90 money units should keep their value, right? So even if I want to spend them in a year, they should be able to buy me the same amount of productivity, let's stick with productivity, as they did when you paid me, right? But because there's this third party who is involved with this, they set the value of this money, and their whole system is designed around the fact that this money loses value by 2% each year, and their stick is, this incentivizes the spending of the money, right? And that's how we grow and all these things. So there's this kind of like economic ideology, philosophy that kind of rules our money system and our financial system, the Keynesian economics. But if you just go back to me having the 90 money units that lose value over time, and in reality it's more than 2%, my measurement for value kind of becomes jaded, right? It becomes crooked. Like whatever you could buy from me for 90 is not what I can buy in a year for 90. And usually it goes really slow and slow and slow, right? But over time, over a long enough time frame, eventually, this money loses its value. So what does that bring me? It brings me more anxiety towards the future. So everyone has general anxiety towards the future. Like I can die tomorrow. Like we don't really know when we die, right? So there's just this organic kind of anxiety towards the future that hopefully gives you a certain motivation today to make the most out of today, right? That's the point. And so when I decide what I want to do today, create value for Matt, right? That was my decision. I changed my time and energy. You gave me a reward. If that is what I did, what does it mean when the reward I got actually loses value over time and gives me more anxiety because I'm able to plan less for the future? But my whole goal is to plan more for the future because my goal is to create this capital, right? And so you can already kind of see how my need or my want or my desires are basically in a certain fight or in a certain tension with the tool, the technology I'm using to be able to provide that for myself. Does that make sense? So if I get more anxious towards the future, I discount the now also, right? Because I'm not really living in the now. I'm not really enjoying it because my anxiety is going up and up and up towards the future. And that also impacts all the decisions I want or could or maybe should make in the future or today, because my future is so uncertain. And so when I say like the measurement for value is, why that was so eye-opening to me is that with fiat money, there's one point of the measurement of value is that when we shake hands and agree. And only after that, my tool that I can use to measure and exchange value with other people already measures less, basically. So it's like a yardstick or 1 meter becomes like 98 centimeters or 97. And so you can imagine if you want to build a house with a ruler that changes constantly, you don't really create a stable structure, right? So what is Bitcoin then? And I think Bitcoin in essence is extremely simple, but it's really hard to understand why the simplicity is so profound. So what do you need for a ruler, right? Like how do you measure a meter, a kilowatt, a kilogram? Like how do you do that? You do that with something that doesn't change. It is this one thing and this one thing only. And so for measurement, well, there is discussions around the world, right? Some people use miles, some other people use kilometers, etc. They all have their origin, but the most commonly used, I think, in this example, is the metric system, just like kilograms. I don't use stones. In England they use stones, right? So um, there's certain like common language as to how we measure, voltage, length, weight, etc. But there's no measurement for value at all. Like, well, they are there, but they're not constant because they're losing value all the time. And so when you think about Bitcoin, where does this stability come from? How do you know that one Bitcoin basically is always one Bitcoin? Like a meter is always a meter and a kilogram is always a kilogram, is because its base structure is rooted in a set of rules in a computer protocol, which basically says I'm this and this and this and this and this. And like the whole computer network has a goal, which is not only to secure the information that is stored on the blockchain, but also to uphold the integrity of these rules, right? So the longer the rules are the rules, right, the longer they exist, which is a Lindy effect, right? The longer something exists, the bigger the probability that it'll stay alive. That makes it more trustworthy. And you'll love where I wonder what you think of this. So it's like the longer this exists, the more data is stored in this ledger, in this blockchain of Bitcoin, in this network. And the stronger the computer network around Bitcoin is, that makes it less prone to change, so more immutable, the more trustworthy Bitcoin becomes as a measurement of value, basically. Because when you hear Christine Lagarde talk, right, European central bank president, she says €1 is €1, but that's incorrect, because in 1999, €1 was a euro at the introduction. Today, that €1 is 37 cents. And so she says €1 is €1. Yeah, well, maybe on the bill, right? But not in the productivity or the energy that I can buy with it that it should represent. So over time, in only 25 years, it already lost over 70% or over 60% of its purchasing power. And so the whole goal of Bitcoin is I'm going to stay the same. That's what I mean with the I think that's the simple genius. It's I'm never going to change. It's very boring. The whole point is that it doesn't change. It just chugs along. It doesn't have to be fancy or whatever. The whole point is I'm going to stay the same. And more people are going to store value in this system. And the system is just going to chug along. It's going to add another block. Every 10 minutes, we get more proof that this thing is reliable and you can trust it. And over time, I think that is why more and more people will figure that out. Because when you look at fiat money, it's like the total opposite of fiat money, right? Who decides on the value of the euro? I only know Christine, right? Like I have no clue who she works with, right? And in America, the Federal Reserve has never been audited. Like there are all these institutions, people, they don't care logically about your individual prosperity as much as you do. So, but still, you are dependent on them, and they are part of the system you're not even part of, right? So, I mean, I'm in a euro area, but I have to pay attention to the dollar because that has effect on my euro, for example. Like all these things, and so Bitcoin is just a thing that no one controls, but there is a decentralized network of computers and people that actually maintain this and secure this and verify this. And the fun thing is, of course, you can verify it for yourself. So you can actually audit Bitcoin entirely by yourself with like one line of code, and that is it, right? It's like literally 15 characters, and you press enter, and then you can verify everything for yourself. And so that gives you so much continuity and also transparency that, for me, that kind of like emerges as a better way to measure this value. And the crazy thing is, and I watched some stuff from you, of course, like where I take like the step to the more spiritual connection with Bitcoin is, I don't know if do you know Thomas Campbell? My big theory of everything. Do you know that? Oh, that's. I think he's like a physicist. He has this whole thing about it, but he has a podcast, My Big Toe. Uh, I would recommend you listen to it. Listen to the first 3 episodes. It's about physics, quantum mechanics, consciousness, and all I could think about was Bitcoin. So he's talking about how, like, our experienced reality is basically a, a super low entropy version of the super high entropy, which is consciousness, or the everything, basically, right? So we are a manifested consciousness in the most dense form of consciousness, the lowest entropy. And he talks about high entropy, low entropy, and stuff like that. And all I could think about was Bitcoin. It's like, holy shit, in Bitcoin, we're taking abundant energy, chaos, right? There's never ending energy. It's high entropy, right? We take that and we condense it into a chain of data, which is probably the highest form of ordered information in the entire history of humanity. Does that make sense? So you take something from like super high entropy and you put it in like a super clear like data structure. It's like super low entropy. It's like super ordered and super clear, and anyone can see what this is. And so while he was talking about it, I was like, holy shit. Okay, so if I really believe why this is spiritual for me is like, if you can align with how the world works, right, with how the physical reality is manifested and created, if you create something in this physical reality that aligns with like the order of creation or the way things are created in this reality, then you should pay attention, if that makes sense. So that's well, I really wonder what you think, but that's kind of how you can go from like, okay, it's like a monetary finance tool to like, holy fuck, this is a super profound discovery, because it does align with all these bigger principles. And when you look at the adoption of Bitcoin, for example, it follows this power law, which you can find everywhere in nature, right? And so, well, we can talk about that, but it's just like there's these things that I came across when I was looking into Bitcoin. I was like, whoa, this is so much. It's so much bigger. It's so aligned with, yeah, like I said, the kind of like mechanics of creation almost.
It is. Almost feels like an organic technology in the way that it's structured too, you know? And like you were saying, it becomes a constant, but it's not a constant in isolation either. It's actually a constant because to some degree you could work out the amount of proof of work that was done by the miners to do each block, and you could work out how many kilowatts are in your coin of like real world energy.
That's wild. Yeah. And also, sorry, I want to add one thing is, my Bitcoin is the same as your Bitcoin. Like, you, from your side of the world, at your time, at your moment, with your computer, like how you verify Bitcoin is exactly the same as how I verify Bitcoin, which is mental, right? Like, if you think about it, like, what can you and I verify right now extremely precisely, where we both are like, oh yeah, that's the same thing. Not even the color on my wall, we could not even do that. Does that make sense? So it is like an absolute truth that we share. I think that is wild.
It's insane. And like when we're talking about bringing things from like high entry to low entropy, it's like Bitcoin is a fixed supply. And although it works really amazingly as money, as this unit of money in like exchange that we're doing peer to peer amongst each other and everything, money itself is an abstraction, right? It's like, what can we just use? And Bitcoin, it's really just it's not even really like the invention, but it's kind of just like the invention of absolute scarcity, you know? And then it's like now we get to play with what that does. And then you just go down this ripple effect of this insane effect on like everything that's created culturally.
100%. And but you also end up with like certain realizations, or you hear people say something where you're like, yeah, that's super logical. rational, makes sense, but it never existed before, right? And I think one is like abundant money creates scarce resources, and like scarce money creates abundant resources. Like it took me a while to think about like what does that mean, right? And I think when you can infinitely create money, this is also so funny because like whole economic like ideology or philosophy that I mentioned, right? Like the Keynesian ideology is just so easy to poke holes into, right? So they're saying we need growth, therefore we need to devalue all existing money units, so it loses value. So the humans are incentivized to do something and grow, but they never really talk about how that growth is nominal, right? It's just denominated in like it looks like the value goes up because the price goes up, but the price only goes up because the units that you're measuring it in actually go down in value. And when you can create infinite money that is basically diluted all the time, you create a lot of things, but they're not necessarily of value, right? So it kind of like dilutes the marketplace of value. It's really hard to find like durable products or like super valuable I think this is what people see every day, right? And I always have the example, like I live in a home that's like 120 years old. Like my doors are nice, like my stair is nice, it's like a hard door, and the door even has like decorations, and like my whole stair is like a curved like wood thing and whatever. Like there was like a carpenter doing that, and he was thinking, I'm gonna make this like super nice. And like in 100 years, this is still gonna be there. That was his motivation. And now, like a modern door is not even made of wood, right? And if it's made of wood, it's like this, like pressed together, whatever, sawdust or something, right? And so you see that the because you cannot measure value, but there's like a lot of units that people could chase of money, people are just doing whatever it takes to get some of the pieces of that kind of like abundant money. But if you have scarce money, so scarce, so with infinite money, you have scarce true value. If you have scarce money and everyone is basically fighting, i.e., competing for the scarce reward, everyone is going to be forced to figure out what actual value delivery means. Like, what do people need? Like, you don't want to waste your time building something that nobody wants, not only like in the financial or economical sense, also because you don't want to waste your scarce time. Does that make sense? Like, I love that thought, where it's like you're for by when you're forced to create value, you're also forced to think about what the value of your time is, right? And then when you have an idea of something that you would do, you are again forced to to really figure out if you want to do that or something else before you actually continue, which is also like a total opposite of how people are doing things nowadays, right? Like everything is fleeting, everything is like 5 minutes or 10 seconds or whatever. And like this is why I love Bitcoin. We go from like finance to spiritual to like more like philosophy, or like what is like personal motivation and stuff like that. And this is what Bitcoin is. It's like so intertwined, but it comes back to the core of what is money. Like if the money is not a good measurement of the value that it's exchanged for, then like all these secondary third order effects, even further, they all happen.
And I love that example of like your place just having amazing carpentry work. And it makes perfect sense where, like you were saying, if the money is slipping through your fingers and literally second by second, the value that you have sitting in your bank account is actually going down, like, of course, you're going to want to take the best staircase that you can get right now, because in 10 years, it's going to be so much worse and so much worse of what you're able to get for your money. Right. And then there's the inverse where you have Bitcoin, you're like, I know this thing is actually going to go up in value over time. So for me to actually get rid of it, it has to be something very worth it for me, because I'm actually so incentivized just to hold it.
Yeah. So it's not only the people on the spending side of fiat money that are incentivized to spend it fast. It's also the on the like value creation side where people are incentivized to create as, or push things out, push you know plastic clothing, whatever the fuck people buy from like Timu or whatever. Like that is a symptom. Does that make sense? Like I feel that is a symptom, right? Like the chase of the infinite money that is being printed infinitely faster as time progresses, uh, also creates the incentive for people to chase that even further. And so again, when you go back to like the discounting of the future and discounting of the now, if your only activity today is being a consumer, how are you going to be a builder of yourself, of the world, of a family, or whatever you want to create? um and that's where I think, yeah, the spiritual part again shows. And I also think I call it like it's a spiritual crime. Like it takes time and space away from like this the spiritual part of uh the experience of your life, right? And I know you're deep in this too, but it's like there's this duality, or there's this understanding of the physical experience, but also understanding the spiritual experience of your life. And if you're like constantly stuck basically in the physical world, then there is no time and space to explore the spiritual part of your life.
Even at like a physical level, there's something about allowing the channels of creativity and intuition and all of these things to flow where you can't have a jacked up nervous system. Like you actually kind of need to be calm to actually create from like a true place. So we take that idea of the money is just inflating like crazy. You can't think about the future. Everything's slipping out of your fingers at all times. Then you do the inverse where it's like everything's slow, patient, forward thinking, and it's just you have to switch your whole life around. Everything has to change because all your incentives completely flip instantly. And I think that's where like the Bitcoin is really interesting because as soon as you get it, you have to make drastic changes. And I was talking to you before we started recording, and I was saying, like when I found Bitcoin, it was like just life consuming. It was like I had to do everything I could to learn what this thing was. It's just hours and hours of research and podcasts and books and everything. And up until I started the podcast, which was like 2 months ago, I hadn't looked at any Bitcoin anything because my life had almost gone beyond where it was like, okay, I understand what this is. But now for me to take action on everything I know, it's actually about how do I basically create like a Bitcoin salary for myself, so that my pay is actually going up and up and up over time. How do I position myself in the world to maximize freedom? And like these are all the questions that come beyond Bitcoin. It's really just this starting point of where now you just receive a whole new layer of free will. And then it comes back to like this idea of like mastery. And it's like, okay, like in your life now, what do you actually want to create? And people think like, okay, but I found Bitcoin, it's the best thing ever. So I'm going to double down even harder into the world of fiat, try to crank out as much money as I can to get the Bitcoin so that I can retire. But it's still such a high time preference perspective where if you flip that as well and you go, okay, I know I'm going to be acquiring Bitcoin throughout my entire life. There's actually no rush because it's always going to be working for me as time goes on. And we have to think in generations too, where I don't see my children feeling like they need to hustle as hard as they can to get Bitcoin at the USD price that it is for their children. Do you know what I mean? It's like the accumulation will happen. So now how do I set up a structure of my life where my actual beliefs and my desires and I get to live the life that I want to live And that question is really interesting because it now is beyond Bitcoin, and it's like, who who am I? Like, I know a lot of people who don't even know what they believe in. If they could retire right now, and like I say, like retire in quotes because we never stop working, but it's like if you weren't making decisions for money, what would you do?
Yeah. I mean, I think to kind of add to this bridge of where we're going, if people think about, but if Bitcoin is the money and I really have to work for it and I really have to figure it out, like what happens when I do something wrong, but that's the whole point, is like when you denominate your money in Bitcoin, right? And you said, purchasing power goes up. Why does it go up? It's because in history people have always moved to the better money, right? Like trading your finite time and energy for money that can be created infinitely is like the dumbest thing that you can do. And when you figure that out, when you realize that that is factually the case, right? That, I think, is um well, at least it was for me, is when I realized, whoa, I need to save in this other money. I need to move to this other money. That's how I'm going to protect over a long time frame, right? We're recording this as it blasted to like $85,000, which is the exchange rate, not the price, right? Um, it's over a long enough time frame, and that is already part of what you just said. It's like, okay, but I'm thinking about my life. I'm not thinking about today or next week. No, I'm thinking about my life. When have you really thought about your life? When did you really actually have the time and space to think about your life, whatever that means for you, right? And so time and space creation, when if you know that what the capital you have, the wealth you have, gets more purchasing power over time, because organically and proven in history, more and more people will move towards a money that better protects, their time and energy. Um, that's why purchasing power goes up. And eventually, I don't think it matters how much Bitcoin you have. It's about you owning Bitcoin and having and knowing it's increasing in purchasing power over time gives you the time and space now to try something. But even more importantly, it gives you time to fail. So even when you deliberately, like super consciously choose, like, okay, this is the thing I'm gonna try or do now, or attempt, whatever, right? Like people way back in the day attempted to sail around the world and discover new continents and build like super crazy big stuff, right? Which took even longer than their life to complete. Like they never even saw the product of what they started, right? That's what people did back in the day, right? When you have that time and space to try something, because of Bitcoin, you also have the time and space to fail, right? So even when you fail, even when you attempt something and then you fail, the wealth you had has at least the same amount of purchasing power, and or maybe even more over that longer time frame. And that is something I also absolutely love, because that is not present today. In fiat money, it's not there, because if you try something and you fail, whatever you had left also lost its purchasing power, right? So that's why you're not incentivized to try something risky or new or daunting or whatever. And I think just having that realization already, I have the time and space to do what I want. Like you used free will, right? I don't know if free will exists, but that's a different conversation. But it's like the conscious choice and reflection, right? And being like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I think that is the liberating part. Knowing that you can actually do that. And when you experience that for one time, you can never go back, right? Because if you go back, there's other people that control your space and time.
And I think we see that. Like, I was just messing around on the internet the other day, and I realized I looked up how many people start a business, like, and actually try to be entrepreneurs, and it's 4% globally start a
Really?
business. Right?
Wow.
And then like only 1 in 10 businesses get through like the initial kind of like testing to actually become anything. So we're talking about 0.4% of the population are people who are entrepreneurs who actually can create income from it, right? And you take that idea and you're like, how is that even possible? If we go back to like, say, like a hunter gatherer community, right? Everyone is an entrepreneur.
By definition.
Exactly. Someone goes out, they catch a fish one day, they trade, it all works like that. And we've just had this mass migration of like everyone just becoming employees because it's so difficult to be entrepreneurial because everything is working against you in terms of money. You know, like the money is slipping through your fingers, your savings account doesn't work. And then on top of everything, you're taxed 30, 40, 50% on any profits that did get acquired, you know, and now that's gone. So we have 99.6% of the population probably not doing what they wish they could do.
Yeah, I fully agree. Although, well, there's always people that uh that are happy to be the worker bee or the worker ant, right? And they are super, they can be super happy in their lives, right? So it's not, I think it's not about kind of like the judgment of what makes someone happy, but more about, are you doing what you want to do, basically? Whatever that is, right? And if you are a worker bee type person and you're doing what you want to do and you're happy, then that is amazing, right? um but yeah, I agree. I think there's many people that do stuff in their life that they hate, not because they consciously choose to do something difficult, or do something difficult because they created that created a path of creation where inevitably there are difficult things that, you know, come to you. That's the whole point, I think. But they're doing things they hate just for money. And that, again, I think is what for me is like the spiritual crime. It's like it's like all this untapped human potential basically captured in some weird, yeah, kind of like battle for attention or energy or time, whatever. And that's kind of sad. I think maybe that's just how it goes. I don't know, right? That's maybe a bigger question, but it's like, well, what would be the end state where you and I would be like, okay, well, now it's like fair or something. I don't know what that is, but I do agree with you. There's so much, yeah, what I think is like untapped potential, or like untapped experience of whatever this is, um kind of like hijacked by other people no better than us or them. Does that make sense? Like it is there's this invisible hierarchy, and you cannot really name the names, but it's still there. And part is organic and part is absolutely not organic.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, and the inorganic part is just trying to basically stop the free market taking place.
Yeah, I it's so funny. I I don't know what the tweet was, but it's usually people of a certain political philosophy. Um, I don't. I'm thinking about what the tweet was, but I 100% agree. It's like they cannot handle the actual reality, the reality of taking full ownership of whatever you define as what has been given to you with this experience of life. They are so afraid of doing that they rather control other people so they don't have to get to the point where they are actually confronted with um, their kind of like inability to take ownership. That's really what I think.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes me think of like the word humiliate, you know, and like it's like etymology, you know, and it's like to be humble, but even further, like in Latin, it's like humus. It's like literally the soil. It's like to be grounded in reality.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
And it's like these people are so far detached from the earth and from the human experience that they have no ability to like live other than to siphon off other people's work, and that's where like these weird centralized powers are created.
Well, they cannot create. They don't understand that I love this. I knew we would talk about this. If I take like a turn now, let me know. But the being grounded part I absolutely love, right? And I have to think back to what you said about hunter gatherers. Like I always think like the first two guys, let's imagine we are in a hunter gatherer village, right? We are the first two guys where they say in the morning, well, you don't have to go out today. We have a little surplus. You can do something else. What would we do? What would we do? And I think what we would do is to look up and be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is happening here? There's like a fireball in the sky that comes up and goes down. And then it's like dark. And then there's like snow and rain. And then like all the children die and the food perishes. And then the flowers are there again. And then the summer, like, what is going on? What does this mean? What is this existence? Like I think the most profound questions come instantly at you when you are like at that start. Does that make sense? Right? Like it's like, what is this? Like I need to know what is happening here. Like there's no concept of time or whatever. Well, the time is created by what is happening in the heaven, right? Like how that's moving. And so I think the first thing to realize, and they already realized that, I think before that moment, is like you are this in like the infinite space of reality or dimensions or whatever. Like there is something above you you cannot ever fully understand. So you have to accept at the core that you have no clue. You don't even know why you exist, what this is, what this means, right? And I think that is, if you really get to that, like instantly, right? And like you said, they had to pay attention, like all the animals pay attention when they're chased by another animal. There's like never a deer that says like mid chase, like, well, that's it, whatever. I don't really want to do this anymore, right? Like that is like nature. It's like do you ever see a tree stop growing, right? Like that. So I think way back, the humans were just instantly humble because they knew they couldn't control everything. Are you following?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so now in like modern times where you and I grew up with 6-year-old going to the store with the coin, oh well, this is money, and people that have more money are better than other people that have less money and whatever. Like there's all these fucking constructs going around, us creating or contributing to however we define this paradigm, right? How we make sense of the world, how we label the world, basically. And there are some things that are like tested in time as to how we label the world, right? Like if I ask you what color is this, you say white, and I say white, right? And this is black, and there's green. But there's never like the exact same interpretation in your mind as in my mind. We just labeled like a spectrum of light to say to have an agreement as to what this is, so we both can make sense of our like mutual experience of the reality. Yeah. So and that is like basic, but like what is money and what does money mean, or having XYZ amount of money or whatever, like it's all these parts of these constructs that help us to define the reality. But it also takes us very far away of being that grounded as these people were, which are biologically basically the same as you and I are today. And think about like that difference. What what does that even mean? How are we so far away from people that came before us that are biologically exactly the same? Why aren't we even why are we so far away from that point of just looking up and being like, what the fuck? Like I don't know what's going on, and that's okay. It's okay that I don't know, but this is I have a place. I'm not at the top. I'm definitely not at the top of any fucking chain, right? But there's a place. Yeah.
I mean, the fiat took away the sky. Like you can't see the stars at night now. You're not even connected to the greater thing that's going on, you know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. But what do you think about that? Like thinking about where I wanted to go. I think about this stuff so much. but and that's why it's nice to be on like the guest side. I can have a moment to like form my thoughts. Um, but we are not aligned in a natural way anymore, you know. And I think that's what I get from when you say this humus. That's great. I never thought about it. But yeah, to be grounded, like, what is this? Who am I? What is this experience? Am I the meat suit? Am I my thoughts? Am I something else? You know, do I speak my thoughts, or do I hear my thoughts, or do I see the thoughts, or do I observe the thought? Like, what the fuck? You know, and like that again, to go back to space and time, like, you need space and time in order to even start on that more like spiritual journey, or at least whatever your journey is, to kind of understand what your place in existence is, or something like that. I don't even know how to define it, but it's like, yeah, make sense of whatever this is for you in your own way, however you do that.
Absolutely. And I think we see that, like, and in like the spiritual side of things, the first big like opening that happens is you begin to realize you're not just your mind, you know, and you're actually like the awareness, and like your thoughts aren't necessarily yours, and they're just moving through, and you can just observe all of it. And when you're like living in that state of like pure fucking stress attention, like you're just problem solving all the time of like, how do I get to the next day? Whereas I think, like you said, as soon as you take that step back and it's like, okay, we're good, what do we do? And then you look at Machu Picchu, and like they have it set up where it's like this incredible thing up on the mountain. They have a way to suck water out of underneath the mountain up into like spouts that come out for the people to live off. And then out on the distance on one of the mountains, there's a gate, right? And on the solstice, the sun passes directly through it. So they know exactly when in the year they're there. Yeah. And it's like they worked out and they mapped the stars and they understood like what was around them. And then the next step from that feels like it's just like this connection of like, okay, I am this being in this world, and like I need to make sense of it. Who am I? How do I live a good life? How do I live a life that I would be like proud of, to reflect upon? And for me, it kind of comes back to like it's talking about Machu Picchu, like the Incas, right? Through all this philosophy and all this understanding of who they were in the universe, they came down to four laws of humanity. First law, family. Second law, community. Third law, work. And the work has to benefit the community. And the fourth law is ceremony. And it's literally your connection to God, right? And you go, okay, well, what's the most important out of those four? Right? And everyone would go, oh, family, right? They go, no, it's ceremony.
That's the grounding. That's the grounding experience.
It's like, who am I, like, compared to creator, and then like if I'm not good in myself, and like I have depressions and anxieties and all of this, like I'm not good for anyone, you know so it starts with like fixing you first.
Well, I'm also disrespecting the gift, the gift of the life, right? The experience of the physical reality. I'm just thinking, imagine the first time the sun went through the gate and they were looking at it. Think about that. Think about the very first time they would be like waiting, like everyone would be looking, and then it would be like, whoa, we did it. That's so fun. I had to think about that. But that, like, how incredibly rewarding that must have been if they all worked on that together. And everyone did their part. Everyone did their part, right? And then the sun went through the freaking gate, and all they could do was tell the time. Pretty wild how much like work and energy and literal energy and sweat and stuff went into that to just figure out where you were in a time that they didn't even probably fully understand to even the bigger degree. Does that make sense? Like, it's just like one little point at one moment in the whole movement of the earth, just one point.
They got one date locked in on the calendar.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine that. That's all what they had to achieve. Just the use case of it, but all the work that went in just to understand their point of where they were at in like the infiniteness or the never even comprehensibleness, right? That is mind blowing. That like the stairs in my house are nothing compared to that. Does that make sense? Like I think it's so funny. It's so funny to think about. Like everyone is contributing to this thing, and even that. uh, I find it hard to kind of like think about that in modern days, but how amazing, how aligned must that feel when like all these people are working together for the same thing, whatever their job or their task was in the bigger scheme of things. They were working towards something and having like a shared goal, like a destination, having a shared celebration, and all these things when it actually happened. Like just if you think about that for a second, just you can imagine how rewarding that must be, and how aligning, like very, very aligned. Yeah.
And like you said, like it's a product of alignment at the community level, right? Like we often live in like these little isolated worlds where like you don't even know your neighbors anymore. But if you get to a point where you're like, financially pretty good, you're like good inside your little box, but like for them to create that meant the entire tribe had enough low time preference, like supplies to undergo a mission like that.
Yeah, and it's not like every morning everyone will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna like walk the fucking mountain again and get some rock or whatever." Like whatever they had to do. So they were also giving themselves to that bigger thing. They were, the sacrifice of I think do the work for like a higher calling or reward or whatever that you cannot even define, because you can only experience that in the moment when you get there, right? So that is like the classic.
Value is subjective. Yeah.
It's so funny. It's dude, so many of these classic things are so true. It's like it's the journey, not the destination. That is literally what I'm saying now, right? Like it's so corny, but when you think through it, it is just there's a truth in it, right? That's also what I came to realize, is that some of these things that we think are corny, like sayings or whatever, like when you have a child, this is like the last, but this is, by the way, what I think is the last thing that you ever hear in your life from like an elder person, where you're like, oh yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? Like when you're 12 and an older person says something, you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever. And then they're like, well, you'll understand when you are my age, right? The last thing you hear, that's that thing, is if you get a child and people say like, pay attention, it's gonna go really fast. And then you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And now my son is like 7, and I'm like, what what happened? Like where did time go? That's like the last thing I always say. This, like, what I think is when you dismiss something an older person says, that is the last thing. And then after that, you just listen, because they are truths, right? They are still the truth. And people tell them to other people because it's true. It's corny as fuck, but it is still true, right? And the corny is your judgment. Is your judgment.
The idea that we even label it corny is like just to show the bad programs that we're running, where like in a lot of other cultures, it's like the people who are the elderly, they're the elders, and it's like, oh, now the elderly can't contribute to the workforce, so they're just like thrown to the side. They don't have anything intelligent to say. I'm here on the hustle. And I think this is a fun kind of just tangent into, you get on the Bitcoin signal and you start to really understand, and you get to see, at a different kind of way behind the curtain. You get like a glimpse behind the curtain. And I know that plant medicines are something that you're experienced in and are curious about and are like walking that path. So I'm curious, like, how the plant medicine thing side of things has led to your evolution.
I never really thought about it in a question form like this, so I'm good. I think there's it's funny, like when I really got into it more was actually when I heard something very like rational and factual from Paul Stamets. You know Paul Stamets? Well, he was like world famous mycologist. He was on Joe Rogan, and um, he shared like he has like this crazy story about how he healed his stutter by doing like a way too big dose, etc. Yeah, it's amazing. Um, but he said at one point they did a study where they investigated what is their experience of people with like plant medicine, like psilocybin specifically for his focus. And he shared a study where like 30% of people would describe uh, their psychedelic experience as negative, like something they didn't enjoy, or whatever negative is for them. But it was only like a one-time event. It was like, oh yeah, I did that. That was fucked up. I didn't like it. But there's no like long-term effect on their well-being. Whereas 70% said it was a life-changing experience that they still carry with them today, that impacted their life in a profound way. And when they talked about it, I just realized, well, the risk reward is a no-brainer here, right? Um, and I did some psilocybin before, but that was not in the I think in the conscious way. I used it after. Actually, I with my girlfriend we used to do it like every other quarter, like together, just have our own like journey, and then like talking together and integrating together, and so that was really nice. Um, but I think how where so I'm like a learner. Like I like to study and watch stuff and read stuff. Like I have these. There's one book here which is "Stalking the Wild Pendulum." I don't know if you know, that's by Itzhak Bentov. That's a must. This for me is probably like the most probable explanation of how this reality is constructed, basically. So it's a physics book, but this guy's super funny. There's a video on YouTube called "From Atom to Cosmos," where you see an interview with him, this guy. And he died in the 70s, and then you have a lecture of his wife. Anyway, I was studying this like religiously. I was like reading this, watching stuff, just trying to figure out, like, just going down that rabbit hole basically, and kind of tying it to my interest in more like like Gnosticism, or like just these more like older kind of like philosophy, consciousness ideas, etc. So I was like studying or paying attention to that. And then I had some trips before, which I think were all really great and helped me to kind of like understand that I am the observer, and this is just a meat suit, and I'm not my thoughts. And yeah, really, I think also the grounding part, right? Like really seeing my place in the world. Like I had one trip where I just infinitely zoomed out and was just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then when I realized what the fuck, I just zoomed in infinitely, basically. And then that's when I realized, okay, I'm just on this sliver, on this like mini tiny sliver, this plane of infinite planes up and infinite planes down, where I actually experience basically myself, right? Which is I think also a realization that a lot of people have. It's like you are the consciousness experiencing yourself forever in the now, right? Like it's just me. Everything here is me experiencing myself. Anyway, so I was kind of like building up to what I didn't realize was, I think, my most profound experience to date, which was I think like last October last year. I did like a sound ceremony, like a sound meditation for like 8 hours with like 45 people in a warehouse in Brooklyn with mushrooms. And that was when I experienced like just a total ego death. Really getting to what I would say is like the origin of everything. Just like literally the ego death for me was like looking at my body and having it like compartmentalized and just shedding everything off one by one until there was like nothing left. And then it felt like I turned around and there was just like the infiniteness of everything, basically. And that's when I realized that that was the source, right? So you can read about these things, right, and gain the knowledge, right? The basically the description that other people give to something that you actually have to experience. But when you experience it, you understand that that is what they are talking about. Does that make sense? Right? Like it's just their interpretation, their way of, just like I'm trying to use words to explain my experience, right? It is just an attempt at giving words to something that you cannot really describe when you haven't experienced it. And so when I got there, I just realized, okay, so if I'm the universe manifested in a physical, and the physical body is like the ultimate low entropy manifestation of the super infinite high entropy consciousness, and I am in this avatar meat suit experiencing this plane of a part of the infinite reality, basically, which we call the 3D realm reality, then that universe is not only outside of me, it's also inside of me, right? And it's so funny because there's all these like sayings, right? Like the Christ within or whatever, like the kingdom of heaven is in you. And like just like infinite amount of like descriptions of that. What I realized is like, okay, so everything is also in you. It's like outside. You're in you're in yourself, basically. I don't know. So that was really an experience where I was taught what I was studying, basically. So it was like, so when we entered this trip, I like met my 6-year-old self, and he was like, is there anything you want to talk about or something? Like he was like checking in with like my child, like, is there anything from your child that you still need to fix or whatever? Like I think that these experiences bring you whatever you're ready for, right? And sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes it's actually entertaining or educating, or however you want to describe it. So I felt like he was like checking in with me, and I was like, no, I'm good. And then he was like, do you want to see what you've been studying? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay. And then that's where we went. And at one point during this meditation was like guided. Someone was guiding it, and they were talking about certain breath work, like breathing in, holding, breathing out, whatever. And at one point I felt like when I was breathing in, I was like breathing, like downloading information. And when I was holding my breath, I was like processing the information. But the information wasn't about myself. It was about like how the fuck this works, like how the thing I was doing actually worked. It was like a real Inception experience. And then when I breathed out, it felt like I gave it back again. So I really believe that if you believe that there's like this infinite consciousness, right? Like all the information that ever existed and will exist already, it already exists in this bigger field, right? So if you have a creative idea, you download a package of certain information, and it's up to you, or your ego, or wherever you're at, to decide, do I think this is interesting enough? But it doesn't mean the idea isn't true because it's constructed of all the information that ever is. But when I realized that, it was like, okay, so I can download whatever exists. I can use that information. I can then give it back. And then it taught me like, no, it's also in you. So then I kept on breathing, but then I took it from my inside. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. Like it felt like I was taking it from the outside, from, let's say, the universe outside of me. But then when I realized, that's also funny, it's like universe, right? That it's like in you, I started getting the information from inside to the point where I was like processing it. And then I realized, holy shit, like this is, I'm doing what the theory is saying, but I'm actually moving through it, and then I could actually play with it. It's like getting it from outside of me or getting it from inside. It's just all the same thing, and I am in the middle, just traveling between these places, incarnations. I don't even know what the definition would be, but I think that was my most like profound experience, where kind of like all these previous experiences plus like just my interest in the studying kind of like came together to this point where it was just really shown to me. And I really believe that this was also the point where I was like ready to actually understand everything that would be shown to me, basically.
Hmm.
And of course, it's my experience of that, which is not necessarily your experience of that. But I think the very interesting part with psychedelics and stuff is that there's a lot of things that, a lot of the same things that people experience. So there's also some sort of shared truth in there, right? So I wonder what you think of what I say, but it's like, okay, that exists. I mean, I'm here. I need water. I need food I need to do things for this body and whatnot. I have things to do here. Um, yeah, how do you integrate that? What do you do? Like, how does that work? And I think, well, it took me to be 38 to get to that point to realize, whoa, there is this. I think there's a discussion around, is that the duality or basically the non-duality, because it's what you are. But I think it really relieved me of, like, I don't know, fear of dying and stuff like that. Like, I don't, it would be a pity if I died tomorrow, but I don't really. It's okay, So something like, so there are these little things. Well, maybe that's quite big, but I still kind of struggle or want to learn or figure out, how do I not lose myself fully in this physical experience, but also not in this spiritual experience? Because that's the whole point, is the integration in this now, right? And whatever happens after you die happens after you die. Whatever, we'll see, right? But I think this experience is about the unification of of both these things that you are, basically. So I don't know if that was an answer.
No, I think you touched on something that I really wanted to get to, where there's these amazing parallels between Bitcoin and plant medicines, where when you're like, you don't understand what the money is and you're just living in the fiat system, it's like you can't see what's around you. You're just a fish in water. And then the Bitcoin gives you this beautiful perspective, this pedestal to stand on to actually witness what that thing is. So then you can make different choices. And I think we get so caught up in the human experience, and not even the human experience in its like most natural form, but the human experience in this weird manifestation of like all the imprints of society and culture and everything on us, of what we should be and how we should live and how we, are meant to act, when in reality, we don't make our own choices a lot of the time. And working with these plant medicines, it's very similar, where you get this other pedestal to stand on to really reflect and witness like what your life is and what it means, and like what you want to create with it, and then also that glimpse behind the curtain again of this like spirit world, that's also right next to us. And it's so easy to, well, you talk about belief, like, do I believe in the spirit world? And it's like, no, I know it. It's like there's nothing to believe in, because I've like been there and it's real.
I I saw this TikTok of a like an old Jamaican guy that said, like, you only believe in things you don't think are true.
I mean, the word belief has lie in it.
Oh wow, yeah, there's lying in there. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think etymology, like you mentioned, is extremely important.
For sure. Yeah. That's something I think about all the time, is like etymology, because we use these words to communicate and we're just doing our best to communicate, but these words carry so much programming with them that we don't actually understand what we're saying, and then also how the words we say affect our way of viewing the situations. It's like, oh, I have, a partner and I have pets. I'm about to have a child. I have so much responsibility, right? But like responsibility, it's your ability to respond. You respond in the present moment. So it's like, how equipped are you to deal with what's in front of you? Not, can you carry this boulder for the next 50 years?
And two things to tie that what you just said back to what we talked about before. That radical acceptance is extremely difficult, I think. It's something that sometimes I have, and sometimes I'm like, ugh, I'm also lost in being the physical me, right? Where I'm like complaining and this or that, or like worrying or whatever. But that is that is the whole part of the cadence. I think you need to get there to understand this is also there, and that this is like the equilibrium. If you can integrate, right, and that's also where all these the whole Icarus myth is about, not going too high or you will fall, right? It's all about finding like the middle thing. And so this is why I love all this old stuff and etymology. Is like there are truths hidden in how in the words we use or the stories people tell, or else they wouldn't exist. Like there wouldn't be any value to tell these things to other people if they weren't true. Like if you have a child, you tell them the things that you think are true. And if the rest of the society, or whatever in which you're in, doesn't follow that, then like that idea of something will die. Does that make sense? Like it something that still bears truth like 2000 years later, where people are like, huh, if I read that, it actually makes a lot of sense. That is just truth, because enough people on a bigger scale than we can probably imagine agreed that this is something they still have to tell other people. So like you said, it's the absolute acceptance of the fact that you are here and you have no clue how the fuck this works, and your whole life is about struggling with that, basically up and down. I think the getting humbled part, or the humility part, is getting to that point where you can accept that, or like the hunter gatherers did. This is why I think it's always so interesting and not so difficult to understand, but it's difficult to do. You have to give yourself to the bigger thing. You have to accept that there is something bigger that you can never understand, that you are part of, that you are perhaps a product of, but that you also are at the same time. Like, what the fuck? Right. And I think that struggle and well, maybe the enjoyment or the curiosity around what that brings, I think kind of packaging it like that for me is what kind of helps me to deal with that knowing that you just mentioned, right? Like the feeling I had, like, okay, what do I do with this knowledge? Is, well, you just continue, and it's basically a tool for you to understand if you're like fully down the physical life drain, and you're like, fuck, and I'm down and out and this and that, it's bad and whatever, I'm depressed or whatever. If you just think about the fact that there's like an infinite reality, and you are not even a microbe on that scale, then it doesn't really matter where you're at.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think you also get a better opportunity to deal with the polarity of life, because
There's a perspective outside of you.
exactly, right? It's like every moment is a test or a celebration. And it's like, know them both and live them fully, right? It's like when the days are a 10 out of 10, like just fully take it in for how good it is. When you just get hit by just a massive curveball and like shit gets hard, that's where you learn, And it's so easy to be in the shit and be like, this is fucked. But every time I've reached like a rock bottom of sorts, it's been the opportunity to make great changes because I was humbled. Like I made incorrect turns at certain points, or I didn't see certain information coming towards me, or I didn't listen to my intuition. And then like I was served up, being like, you missed it, you know? Learn the lesson. I made these mistakes. I can change in these ways. And then you continue forward. So it's like when the hard comes, it's actually like, oh, thank you. You know? When the good days are there, it's also like, thank you.
But the polarity is everywhere. Like you cannot be motivated to create if there's not something that is a problem that you're creating for. Like the reason that you want to create is because there is a negative space. You miss something or you want something or there is an actual fucking problem. Like there is an emptiness, whether that's a desire or something physical or factual, whether it doesn't really matter, but there's an emptiness that you need to create for. That could also be your urge to do something or whatever, but there is no the positive motivation comes from a negative opportunity.
There's no growth without resistance or like something to struggle against.
Yes, so if everything goes too easy, get ready, right? Because something is going to like nothing is easy. That's the whole point, is that nothing is easy because this the fight between positive and negative literally within the atoms is what creates the existence. And that is within the atoms, it's like a fractal on any level where the tension between positive and negative has to occur before whatever you're creating or doing can actually manifest in the way that like you set out to. Does that make sense? Like it is it today I was talking, it's so funny, like I believe in these things. I was talking to my good friend. He is also into Bitcoin, so that's one of my good like real life friends, and he's also into real estate, whatever. He did a bid on a house like 6 weeks ago. He was texting me. He said, I saw this house was on auction, like no one was really bidding for it, and I bid like a number with 888. It was like 888 888 88 or something. And then he said, guess what? I was what? And he said, I got it. And I was like, what? It's like way under market price, right? So he was like, how does this? Okay, well, apparently this was, this is for me. I did it as a joke. This is for me. So now he's trying to fix it. He wants to do stuff with Bitcoin, have that as a mortgage, whatever. And it's all going easy. Like he found a bank that wants to use his Bitcoin as collateral and blah, blah. So he's like, well, what the fuck? I'm actually doing this. I'm doing it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then today he says, I have fucking issues with the bank. Now they want to do a this and a that, and I have to form this and a that. And so I had to do this, but I kind of cheated. And now it's even worse. And I was like, it's so funny. It's so funny. And this is actually what we're talking about. So I feel that this is something we need to share because it's aligned. You and I bring this up, and I actually had a conversation about this. He said, do you think it's because I tried to cheat a bit? And I said, yeah, I think so. Right? Because when you set out your intention, his intention with the jokingly aligning with the universe without any expectation actually gave him something. And now he kind of squandered it because he stopped aligning with it. Because now he has expectations. He thought about, I want to live there. This is what it's going to look like. I'm going to build this. I'm going to build. There's all these things that are part of the psyche of also the human physical experience, right? Like all the seven sins or the commandments, they are all about physical things, right? Like things that you would want as your ego. And this is that. Like, so he kind of disturbed the alignment he started himself, and now the friction comes up because he didn't follow his own alignment. And so we were talking about, yeah, this is just part of it. Like if it's too easy, you can make sure something is going to happen which gives you the resistance that you need to accept. Like when you talk about the psychedelic experience, if whatever you need comes to you, the only thing you can do and need to do is to accept it, right? You need to accept the resistance. And that is what a lot of people cannot do. This is what we talked about with Bitcoin or fiat money or whatever. It's like the resistance is the whole signal. The resistance is the signal of something that you need to learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a crazy experience. Like, and like you were saying, it's almost like the medicines, they give you extra tools for your toolkit of how you perceive. And it's like, oh, I can choose to look at it from this perspective, or this perspective, or this perspective.
All true.
And all true, all true. And it's like the choice is yours, it's all choice. And for me, that's like the biggest thing, right? Like when we talk about freedom and sovereignty, like especially in the Bitcoin space, it's a lot about like financial freedom and like financial sovereignty. But like the expansion out into like sovereignty, it's like to be free. And it's like really comes down to like your ability to make choices. Like now I get to make different choices. And from this perspective, I can make this choice, and like that's what I'm solving for in my life. Bitcoin is a tool in my toolkit for solving how to create more choice.
One. Yeah, one. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I say this a lot. Like it's not about again how much Bitcoin you have. It's about understanding that if you take this conscious choice, there are an infinite amount of choices you can also consciously make, and there, and everyone else who you've outsourced a lot of choices to before, and maybe sometimes need to in the physical world, right? I mean, I'm not a doctor or whatever, right? Like sometimes I need someone who knows something I don't. But being aware of the fact that you're doing that and making the conscious decision if you want to or not, I think is what you are saying. That experiencing that is what the freedom is. It's not about the amount of money in that sense. It's about understanding that only you can make that choice, and that whatever choice you make in moment A, which has effect B, is in the past, right? Like if there's effect B, you have to make choice C, right? And so on. It's like a chain. So I think when you can get to a point, and I'm not there, and I think this is hard, where you can just be conscious all the time about how you, this is also so funny, right? When people say like, oh, you're the creator of your own universe, that sounds so woo woo, right? It sounds so vague and abstract, but that's literally, I think, what we're talking about. It's like, no, it's literally just you. Like not doing anything is also a choice. If that is your choice, your conscious choice, okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is the whole point of being the creator of your universe, right? It's like me, everything. Even when someone does something negative to me, it's my choice as to how I deal with that. If I let that get to me or make me go like off center or whatever, get to my ego, or that's all eventually just my choice. Even though if you ask 100 people, was that person a dick to you, and they all say yes, then still it's your choice how you deal with that or how you let that get to you. I love this is also kind of like a corny book, right? Like the subtle art of not giving a fuck. Did you read that or not?
No.
I mean, basically what I just said, I think, is the core of the book. It's like it's just you, and he gives like the most extreme example is like when you have a child and your child dies, you can like mourn, like everyone mourns. There's a mourning, but how you let that event define the rest of your life is all up to you, right? So there's a factual event that is the saddest of saddest, the most horrible thing that can happen, but still there's a you have a choice. You are the creator of everything that comes after that. And I think it is a brutal example, but it's just very clear because it's just true. Even when someone killed your child or whatever, like hit him with a car or whatever, like that's how he talks about it. It's like, but that is what comes also with this reality, that there's all these bad things that happen in this reality too, and that is just, yeah, I mean, that it happens. So it's not to talk down on certain emotions and love and whatever, everything that is in the mourning and remembrance part. It's about, okay, that happened, and now what? Like, what do you let your life be defined by that? In what way? Like, that is all your choice. No one else outside of you and your experience, your ability to do something with that, I think is like the best example I've ever read about, that you are the creator of your universe. It's literally that. It's not like manifesting $1 million in my hand. It's about, how do I ingest and process whatever the experience is throwing at me, whatever that is.
Hmm. Yeah, so many points I could jump off there. So funny. I just one thing that when you were explaining those stories, like it's so true. And although I don't like Sadhguru, I like, anyone who is talking about depopulating the world, I'm instantly like major discernment, like a bit of a witch. But he says, if someone came up to you in another language and just like cussed you out and you didn't understand any of it, you wouldn't even react really.
No, that's a good point. That's a very good one.
You know what you wouldn't even react. So it's like it's just like their words are fucking with you.
Yeah,
And yeah, like you were saying, it's like my whole philosophy in life is just build the dream. Your life depends on it. Your life depends on it. You know what I mean? Like how many people are sitting with like an idea that like I would love to do this, or I'd love to build this thing, or I'd love to like move countries or like change my situation. And then you're just sitting, like you said, the choice of not choosing or the choice of just not doing. And it's like take time to really reflect on like what are those invisible leashes that are around you that are stopping you making those choices. You only get one life. And that's another thing beautiful about plant medicines is they're almost like a near death experience. So you actually get to see how valuable life is and how much you want to do it and also how fleeting it is. Like I'm still a relatively young man. I'm like 28 years old. But like I already feel like life's getting away from me a little bit. Like I really got to like stay present and be here for this thing.
I think this is one of like the insights I had from a journey, is really aligned with what you said. It's, you have to, we're talking about how do you take on life or something, right? Like how do you make sense of this, whatever this is, again, for you, right? It's your experience.
Hmm.
The alternative is like death. It's like, if you I just realized, I just had this whole trip about death. And the funny thing, by the way, when I do that with my girlfriend, we that journey, we have like totally separate experience, obviously, but it was both around death that one time, which I thought was super interesting.
The medicine knows.
Yeah. So she was like, well, I met death. I gave it a hand. I'm not afraid to die. But I was like, no, I don't want to. And then I went back. I was like, whoa, okay. Well, do you want to? So I told her, do you want to hear what I what I thought about? So I saw like the world as like an ant colony, whereas like all these people are doing things. We're all doing things. Like the ants in the ant colony are doing things, right? And you have worker ants, and you have, you know, leader ants, and you have army ants, and whatever.
Central bank queen. Yeah.
What? Yeah. So I was thinking, I was like, I was like looking at the world, and I was like thinking about, okay, the death spiral of the ants. You know that sometimes when it's like a psychotic something with ants, and they start walking in circles. Do you know this or not? There's like this thing, like some ants fall over because they die, etc. I was thinking about that, like, okay, what if I die? Well, there's a certain amount of people that are sad that I'm gone and my body is gone, but it's just gonna continue. Like this whole fucking ant thing, it's just gonna continue. I'm irrelevant.
Uh-huh.
You can be here, or, and that's what I realized, you can decide to check out, right? You can just be like, okay, that's it. I'll kill myself, and then you know it's over with. But if there's like a super tiny thought that comes after that thought of, I'll just check out, that's like, nah, I don't want to die, the consequence of that is humongous. It's like that, okay, if you don't want to die, you have to take on everything that comes with this experience. There is no, like, that is the like almost source binary for me. It's like, it's either this or that.
Hmm. Well, I think there's something really beautiful just to be said about like the enduring human spirit too, where like everyone has the exit door available at all times, right? But the human spirit is like, and people go through hard stuff in this life, and they continue to endure because they think that someday in the future things might be better. God bless.
Even if it's not, you're striving towards something.
Like if that isn't like just even a sign, and like life is just net good, otherwise I think we'd see like a 50-50 like suicide rate.
That's a good point. Yes, that's a good point. That's a very, very good point. And so that is also why, funny, that's an amazing point.
Uh-huh.
It is, yeah, it's like there is no other choice. And like you said, this was another journey of me. I saw like the whole aura of the trees, and I saw like the energy flowing in the air between the trees and me and the plants and all those things. And then I realized, well, if we are just energy, and like you're a spirit, right? You're a spiritual being having a physical experience. All the spirits are around us, like all the spirits are constantly around us. And that's when I thought, like, I saw like shapes in the trees and like the leaves. I thought, like, what if they're all there just watching? Like, what is this guy doing here?
Mhm. They are.
What is he making of this little space-time experience? What is he doing? And, well, see, and this is what I think is funny. You say they are. This was my experience, and you recognize it, right? And that is what really triggered me with psychedelics and stuff. Is this, like, how do you affirm or have a recognition of what I experienced here? Because there is something there that is some sort of truth.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've like had undeniable interactions with plant spirits. It's like nature is not some random backdrop. It is just as alive as we are, especially in the spiritual realms. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna kind of move us towards the return. Okay. So life it seemingly gets more complex as time goes on, but for some reason, all the complexity that I encounter pushes towards simplicity. And I asked my soon-to-be wife, what do you want to do in this life? And she just said, I want to be a mother. Do you think the modern society is so inundated with so much shit that like we've forgotten that the answer of life and like what to do with life can actually just be so simple?
I love that we get here, because this is what I told you before we started recording. I watched your first video when it had like 19 views, and I was like, I got to talk to this guy, because he sees it. You see it in the same way, and we got there now by talking for 2 hours, right? No, but that's great. I think, because I want to connect it back to your question. It's like, okay, if everything around me is basically total fucking chaos, because everyone alive is so far away from all these people that came before us, that were actually like super, super aligned with this experience, literally embodied the experience. I love that word, embody. Like, they embodied it. Okay, that is apparently what I'm doing. I'm gonna do it fully. I'm gonna live this bodily experience fully, right? Well, we are super far away from that, and I think that is what your question is about. But then connecting it back to Bitcoin, in all this chaos, how do I anchor myself? How do I anchor myself to just be still for a second to look at whatever's happening in an ever accelerating, more ephemeral way and create a direction. And I think we can go deeper into Bitcoin now, but for me that is Bitcoin, because the like I said, the information in Bitcoin, the immutable information that is stored in Bitcoin is an absolute truth for me and for you, exactly the same, like I just said. So even whatever you think of Bitcoin, if you think it sucks, like that is not even my opinion, what I just said. Like it is, like the data you download is the exact same data that you download, and this then and you know, you like your code, the code that you can type in to verify, etc., gets the same result as you get. So there is no other party, or there are no other parties. There is nothing in between you and the truth that you can verify for yourself. And that doesn't exist in today's world. Uh, Aside from perhaps the somewhat shared truth or experience of the spiritual realm that we talk about, but even that is more dispersed than the Bitcoin truth. So I think like Bitcoin anchors us in this physical reality, and like we talked about in the beginning, gives you time and space to figure out, okay, what is this? What do I want? How do I go there? How do I manage whatever comes at me? And your question about, you know, children, or just following the basically the kind of like biological programming. This is also what I realized when I had this ego death experience, this idea of, okay, if what you truly are is a spiritual being having a physical experience, right? That you are a part of the universe and I am a part of the universe. This is what this Thomas Campbell guy says, right? You are an individuated unit of consciousness, is what he calls it. But we come from the same source, but we are incarnated, you know, in a different body. So during this trip, when I was like downloading and processing, I was realizing, okay, so if the physical reality is a manifestation of, you know, the eternal everything, the consciousness, the highest form of manifestation, the most complex form of manifestation, is a human body, because a human body is aware of itself, right? So rocks have consciousness, and elephants and frogs and sunflowers, there's consciousness in them, but they're not aware of it. We're aware of it in different degrees. Like the rock doesn't know it's conscious. The flowers, for example, or the plants, we already know that they know when you are coming home. Like there's people that do research to that, right? Like the plants can feel when you are there. What the fuck, right?
From 2 kilometers away, your house plants will react to you coming home from 2 kilometers away.
Like that is a fact. Okay. Elephants mourn the death of baby elephants, right? They come back to the like they, you know, dolphins are more intelligent. And then you have humans, right? So the highest form, well, this is how my mind went. I wonder where you, well, not my mind. This is what I saw. I wonder what you think. But like the highest form of the eternal consciousness, i.e., love, the highest manifestation of love is another human, because the most complex form of manifestation is another human, right? So you manifesting that again is like the highest thing that you can do in this human physical experience. So I just realized that is the goal. Like the highest thing that you can do is to make another human. And that has like nothing. It just felt really logical to me to just get to that point. Like it would be basically the ultimate respect for your own gift.
Yeah.
If nowadays you see that there are people that don't follow that because this manufactured paradigm, matrix, existence, whatever they operate in discourages them so much, gives them so much anxiety about the future, artificial anxiety, not the organic anxiety we talked about, because they don't think they can afford it, right? Or it ruins their life, or it's like, I want to be my own boss or have free will or whatever the arguments are. Um, I think now, really, that is all a distraction.
Mhm.
Funny. Maybe getting a child is also a humbling experience, because when I'm playing with my kid on the floor and he does something I don't like and I kind of snap at him and he doesn't even listen to me, I'm like, oh no, that's my mother. And I'm like, oh shit, now I'm doing what I didn't like. Okay, I need to fix that. You know what I mean? So it's like the child is a mirror of you, because the child has no idea. The child literally falls into their body, right? Like I have a baby and she doesn't even know how to stand. She didn't know how to crawl. She just learned to wave, right? So she's falling into her body, but you see the spirit. We have interaction, and there's like humor, and she's laughing and we're connecting, and all these things are there. But I still have to protect her. She can die at any moment when we drop her or whatever. Like, she needs me and she needs her mother more. um so now I think looking at life and all the spirituality with what I know now, then having a baby actually confirmed it for me. It's like, and it's like, okay, you fall into this body, you learn how to control and use the body within the whatever this experience is. For imagine you're a baby. I'm just looking at her so much. It's like she's just like, yeah, whatever, this is it. But there's nothing outside of the room that exists for her. Her reality is the room or her bed, or you know what I mean? Like there's no understanding of the bigger thing. I once heard a guy say, like, if there are like two dogs running around in a library, do you think they know they are running in a library, and like they know the function of the library, that there's like an amount of knowledge captured in books from other places by other people, and that's like the collection of the knowledge in the library, and the library is like in a city, in a country, in a world, in a universe, whatever. They're like, no, they're just running around like dogs. And that's what I'm thinking about with the baby. Is like the baby doesn't have any context, so I'm teaching the baby, we are teaching the baby, what is the context. This is a color, this is what we call blue, this is what we call green, this is what we call a cow, right? This is what we call water. Like, oh, like it's us, we are doing that, right? So whatever she does later is a mirror of what I did for her. And so whatever she's giving back to me that I don't like comes from me. There's no context. The baby has no context. They just are, literally. And they just look at you like, okay.
It's pure source running on the programs you gave it.
In a sense, I also think a lot of people don't agree with this, but it's like a way to give yourself like not another life, because you don't want to project, you don't want to make your child a copy of you. It's about being aware of what the child reflects back to you, and then think about, is this what I want to tell them or give them? Right? Like we talked about with the words, like the things that you want to exist. If they are showing behavior or doing a certain thing that you don't like, you probably showed them or taught them. Like, I mean, I have this every day where I'm like, fuck, okay, I need to change this. Fuck, okay, I need to change that. But this is also, again, part of the life experience, right? I cannot go back and be like, oh, I don't want to have a kid. No, this is now my little decision tree, ended me up here. So it is part of all these decisions that I made even before having a child, while having a child, now sitting on the mat saying something where I'm like, fuck, this is not what I want to continue. Right? For example. So I need to figure out where that comes from. What does it mean? Why do I say this? What's the other thing? Right? Like it instantly puts you to work, I would say. So my answer to the question is, this, I think, is essential to life. And if basically fiat money doesn't give you an anchor, right? It puts you on a drift, on this uncertainty towards the future. kind of like mystifies the future for you further than what it is by definition, um, this is, I think, is where people actually spiritually stray off the path of what in essence was part of the path for like billions, gazillions of people before you, right? So the fact that like a man-made construction of something of value, right? The 1 or the 2 or the 5 or the 20 on a bill, makes you not want to follow what everyone before you did, I think is the biggest like spiritual crime in the world today.
No. Oh.
So maybe my generation or even your generation will have less kids, but I think the kids that are there after us, I think they'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like there's something that also guides them in a different way than what guided us.
And I think, like, just the internet itself has just opened so many opportunities for just new ideas, and like I think we'll find our way through where, like, you know, there's just so much like media and programming around it all, but also I had no business being an 18-year-old who was obsessed with ayahuasca living in Sydney. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was like I got called out on my great adventure because I got to see what was out there. And I think we're in this stage right now where everything is so out of balance as humanity tries to grapple with like the weight of this technology. But I think an equilibrium will occur, especially with the help of Bitcoin, when like things will start to get realigned. And just personally, like that's why I love following the traditions of natives and the indigenous, you know, because they are eternal. Their structure for culture and society and skill sets, they will survive if the whole world is fucking reset. And the way that they live their lives is basically true because there's not that much wiggle room for bullshit.
Yeah. But they're not straying from the like they're this is so nice where if something lives long enough, if it's truth long enough, that is low entropy, right? Like that is for them, that is fact because it worked thousands of years before them. And so anything new gets measured. That's funny word. Gets measured against that. And that for them is a shared absolute truth that is true enough to not be affected by the modern world. Modern world, what the fuck is that actually? But I think it's that it is for them like that's a good metaphor actually. It's like in the modern world or in our fiat money world, what is truth? What is one thing where we can absolutely say that is true? And even more than like in like these tribes that you talk about, they for them it's truth maybe because it comes from an older person or something, right? Like we could say like, well, then you still have to trust this older person, but there's this whole mechanism around it why they would trust this person. But with Bitcoin that even goes further because there's no one you have to trust, which is also wild. I would say, does that mean like you don't even have to trust like a social thing? It's like literally just you and you and the code, you and the data on this blockchain. So I think those are interesting like things to compare with each other. It's like if you it's funny, like you don't have the context of the outside, but you have the anchor, right? So like the tribes have the anchor of the history and their education of their family, their whole cohesiveness and all these things, and their actually lived experience of the connection with the plants and the trees and the animals and all this. They know that that is true, right? And my baby knows also one truth is just is just the pureness, right? She is not she's not knowing as in actively knowing, but there's just one thing that she can do, and she's not poisoned by the context. Does that make sense? Like, it's, I'm just thinking about the same type of illustrations of that. And so how do you get out? How do we get out of the context of fiat money, the fucking chaos of that, right? The insecurity around the future, around that is created through fiat money, basically, I think, is by having an anchor, or create just having something that you can latch onto, that can function as an anchor. And as we talked about before, I think whatever you think of Bitcoin doesn't really matter. You cannot deny factually that Bitcoin is the same for me as it is for you, mathematically, and like in the code and all this thing. And so in that way, I think it could serve as this anchor to kind of like get our shit together again, and like come down from this like high entropy chaos fiat money state to a more grounded way of making decisions, I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, even like I was saying earlier, it felt like once I found Bitcoin, it was like a new starting point. Like for me as an individual, what does it look like at hyper Bitcoinization for humanity? Like, what a crazy foundation to like rebuild society on.
I see that too, and I love that, right? If like we said, if scarce money creates abundant resources because everyone is working for it, right? Then everyone is innovating, everything will become exponentially better. And at one point, this is what Elon Musk, I think, says, like, at one point there's so much abundance you don't need money anymore. Well, if that was the function of Bitcoin, then that's fine, right? If Bitcoin is not needed, if when we live in a hyper abundant world, then it served its purpose and you don't need money anymore. And then what can you do? Well, if you are in a hyper abundant world, I think you can go back to like what we talked about, hunter gatherers that weren't spoiled with more context than what they had to like take into account where they lived on that day and that moment. And maybe we can look up again and be like, what the fuck is going on right now? And we can actually go on that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And everyone's starting their like spiritual journey from themselves and their own point of view. Like, because there's like spirit and religion and all of this all around the country, but it's like, when did you look up? You know what I mean? What an interesting thing.
Yeah, and also when you look up and you try to like zoom out, I tell this to my son sometimes. I say like, okay, we're on here on the couch or we're sitting on the ground. Can you zoom out? Like, can you see our house? Can you like zoom out and more? Like, do you see this water or do you see that? Like, can you see the beach of this kind of? Can you like zoom out and more and more and more and more and more and more? And then I take this video from YouTube that like zooms out, and then eventually see the Earth as like a pixel, right? Like when it zooms out. And then he's just like, whoa, whoa, my mind, he says, my mind cannot take it. And I'm like, yeah, but this is what you're in. Maybe, apparently, someone tells you it is. I don't know, right? So I think there's also this thing like, I think the exploration for that, or the understanding of that, like you mentioned Machu Picchu, what an amazing thing you could be doing to like, it's like doing the work, the physical work, to also kind of free yourself in a spiritual way or something, right? Like if you understand more and more of this, like imagine this is really infinite. If space is infinite, okay, what does it mean that you're here? Like, what does that mean? What does that even like? I don't know. I don't even have an answer to that. But if you're like collectively aware of that question, and people are putting their attention to that question, maybe you get an answer. But I do think that it works like that. Like, you can only get an answer if we like actually think it matters to uh get an answer, right? So if you think about like Machu Picchu or like these old civilizations, it's like you could like chill and eat all the fruit from the trees and just chill with each other. But what did you decide to do? You decided to like climb that mountain and calculate the angle of the fucking, like where did where should that gate be and when and like how high, and then you had to like draft people to like walk there and whatever. There were probably people that applied for that, like, let me do that. Think about that. That's how, I mean that is giving yourself to something bigger that you don't understand, but you're like courageous enough to do it. I think that is super aspirational. I think I can talk about it like this, but this is not always my lived experience. This is not what I do all the time. Like, it's not like I'm, you know what I mean? Like, I'm also captured in the luxury of my random life in a Western country with everything that comes with that, right? So how do you get back to that? I don't know. I really don't know, but I do feel that it is a possibility, but it's also far away. Like, we're far away from where they were, right? Like, I, I, I mean, the fact that Machu Picchu is still here, that you can go there and be in awe of the fact that it is there, and that you had to like go on a fucking hike to get there, and that you're like, how did these people do it? And they did it with all their love and all their enthusiasm for like a way bigger uh, calling than anything you and I ever did in our lives. And we think less of them sometimes, right? Like, oh, like those tribes in the Amazon, like they use plants as their medicine, and they talk to trees, like, ha ha ha, like, we are so advanced. Like, dude, if a tree would fucking talk to me, I would be instantly converted, right? Like, I mean, I saw that on like my journey in a sense, but like, if I would now really experience it, like someone in a tribe in a fucking Amazon says he experiences it. Like, I have friends who have been to the Amazon with like, also with tribes like you have been to do ceremonies, and they told me like they just walk through the forest and the forest tells them where to go. Like, they talk with the trees, like the trees guide them through the forest. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I believe that. Like, why, who am I to dismiss that? What a non, how do you say it? Like, that would not be humble. That would not be me showing humility, right? Because that would be me applying my idea of the reality on these people that have a way older culture than me. Right? Like, they have something that I don't have. So yeah, that's kind of how I think through that. Like, but again, it's this balance. Like, okay, we can talk about this. I think this is true, but tomorrow morning again, I'm gonna call a guy out because he cuts me off on my bike. Right? Like, what the fuck? Like, what is that? What is that? Yeah.
I love that little point that you brought up, though, of just like the building of Machu Picchu just being something so much bigger than yourself if you're involved in that. And like, to the people listening and even like reflecting on my own life, what are the odds that I actually am part of an endeavor of some sort that people are still frothing over 2000 years later?
Maybe Bitcoin, but nothing else. But nothing else. 100% nothing else.
Not even close. Not even close.
Isn't that like, I don't know what that does for you, but for me, I'm just thinking about like, what is that? What would that experience be like? Because it feels like that experience is more simple in the doing of things, and bigger in terms of feeling the reward or the connection or the whatever. Does that make sense? Like, it is just the overcomplication of all these things that you need to do here in the physical life, and then all the things that can distract you or worry you or impact you or whatever. It's all taken away from uh yeah, this internal experience that is already inside of you, but that you're constantly being uh pulled away from or something, right? Like, just, I wonder if it really is like, if you had to do shitty work in Machu Picchu, would you still be like happy and content because you felt that you were like contributing together with other people. They were all contributing together to something that was bigger than them. So you still did the shitty fucking shit anyway, because that was more important to experience than doing the physical work that you hated, maybe. I wonder if it works like that. I wonder if it works like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the work is the devotion, you know? It's interesting. We overcomplicate life so much. It's so crazy, you know?
Yeah, like it's, and that's again the journey, not the destination. It's true. I think it's true. Because the destination is literally
Death.
yeah, yes, but I mean more like in yes, but in the Machu Picchu sense, they don't even know, consciously experience that it's still there, and you visit that and are in awe of what they created. They don't even get to get that reward, right? So the destination, you could say, is beyond their physical life, right? What the impact is of something like Machu Picchu, or how it makes you think, or even this conversation. Their work inspired this conversation, and they have no clue. They don't know, like, that is all beyond their physical life, right? So they don't have the entire reward at all. Probably the reward part is bigger after their physical life than in their physical life.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's super interesting. Well, it's been really fun talking to you. I'm glad we did this. Um, so basically we came to the conclusion of buy Bitcoin and have babies and enjoy it for all for what it is.
Anchor yourself in reality. Yeah.
Yeah, come back to reality. Um, you're still doing the podcasts? Are you working on anything else?
Oh, yeah, I'm working on so I have like 200 episodes of the podcast, a bit more now, and from like the first 100 episodes, I'm making a book. So I took all the knowledge from all the first 100 guests and using AI to make a book. So like to use their knowledge to put in a framework that I always wanted to make a Bitcoin book in. I'm organizing a psychedelic gathering in summer, probably summer next year, for Bitcoiners. So that's where also you mentioned going beyond Bitcoin. That's also the name. So it's goingbeyondbitcoin.com. People can check that out. And yeah, just tinkering with a lot of stuff and just trying to talk to interesting people and inspire myself and learn. And there's nothing really else I can do, I think. Try to be a good father. Yeah, just go with the flow, literally. Again, something that is so basic, but it's like that. I'm just trying to create, I think, and try even more, but that's harder to also experience whatever happens after the creation, right? Um but yeah, I think those are the main things. Yeah, and so the podcast is Bitcoin for Millennials, and people can find it on YouTube and Spotify and all these places.
Sure. And I mean, like, this conversation was definitely beyond Bitcoin
Yeah.
for the vast majority of it. But if you want to learn about Bitcoin in a very focused way, definitely check out his podcast. It's fantastic. Like, it's, really intelligent people bringing a lot of nuance to a lot of aspects. So yeah, that's the place. This is the beyond Bitcoin conversations. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you so much.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Yeah, all my relations.
Boom.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe below. It really helps a growing channel like this out. And click up here. It'll take you to a collection of the best this podcast has to offer.
Yeah.